What's going on, gamers? So here we have me getting towards the deeper end of this video that I didn't cover yesterday. And Mark Cerny said some very important things that I think are very important. And it's going to give people an introspection on how he felt about making a PS5 Pro and how the PSSR is actually not fully integrated, like I've been telling people who thought it was going to be behind DLSS. And Mark Cerny made it quite clear in this video what it is. It's a lightweight implementation for PS5 Pro. If they want to go past something deeper than that, it's going to be with the PS6 and it's going to be called something different. And that AMD are the ones that help them do this. Not only that, but AMD, their department on what this really is way bigger than what he can imagine. And that this is the toughest job that he ever had to do. And he is not a master of this. He's learning a lot, and it's very tough to him and time consuming. We're going to get into this, we're going to cover it, and then we're going to realize why PSSR is limited to the way it is now, but it's still a beginning. So to him, he's trying to like not rush in and think that he's the master of things, which is smart, and then he admits that. And we're going to realize that what we have now is where it's going to be there for quite some time, and he's hoping the developers can do the best they can to help out with that, and AMD can help them. He's not trying to do this by himself, and he never did. He was getting help the whole way. So all those people that just were kissing his ass the wrong way, you just need to be corrected. And I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve the credit he's been doing and all the work he's been doing, because I think he is a smart guy. He's been around since the Sega days. He used to be with Sega before. So this is nothing against him. This is just people, once again, making up fantasies and thinking that because he was getting involved in this, that it was going to be this genius idea, but when really he's not a genius in that department. He's learning big time. This is just reality. So if you think PSSR was something that was going to be on scale with DLSS, you are sadly mistaken. It's not even as good as FSR. And FSR is about to get 4.0. XESS was better than it, and it now has 2.0. And TSR is better than it for sure. And that was kind of like right after DLSS. So all of these are always going to constantly be improved. And that doesn't mean that PSSR is bad, but let's just understand its place and the way that it functions. It's a light scale beta AI, specifically only designed around the PS5 Pro technology. That's it, not outside of anything else. It's so limited. So like, comment, subscribe, let me know what y'all think. As always, sharing knowledge with you. Here we go.
Better, more optimal, I should say, architectures for machine learning. And I look at that through a very narrow lens because we're making a console. And so I really want to hear about, number one, I think I want to hear about is, does it support these lightweight CNNs that we need for the graphics?
Right? Lightweight.
But I'd also like to hear about, if people want to do their AI or something on it, is it something that is portable? Is it something that's easy to create? Because you never want to lock people into just one hardware architecture when they make that stuff. So working on this generalized architecture that's particularly good at the ML needs of consoles.
Yes.
So it's specifically designed for machine learning for the PlayStation.
I suspect AMD might frame it slightly differently.
Yeah. So for you guys, really, it's that focus on these really lightweight models that you're using in real-time rendering.
That's my personal focus, right? I mean,
did you see what he just said? It's a lightweight model. It's not meant to be no champion AI upscaler that has all these different settings like all these PCs have and be used to like the insane degrees. They weren't trying to do that. That's way too time consuming. That's why it functions best with the 1440p upscaling method. It's not meant to be like giving you insane frames like the DLSS have all these tensor cores, mixer cores. That's why I tell people it's not fully integrated. Like, it's like a lightweight AI model. There, ponies, what do you have to say? Once again, you're wrong. I'm right. Hey, I'm just saying, because all these people are getting rude, doing all those comments. I've seen it in all the videos. And who was right the whole time? And this wasn't about me trying to prove you wrong, but this was about me trying to tell people how things work and then attacking me after I'm sharing it. So then you started a little bit of a war, and now you're losing again on all spectrums. And you try to call me rude, but I know what I was talking about, so I'm not going to just sit here and let somebody insult me. Yeah, I have pride, so yeah.
AMD, of course, is incredibly broad, and they have big machinery out in the cloud, and they have laptops. They're in so many different spaces. But I look at it as, yes, I'd love to see these things happen. And the other part of it is, for these neural networks, they are they're time consuming to make. I think, with no exaggeration, PSSR is the toughest technical project I've ever been in my life.
In his entire life. He's telling you it's hard. You guys think this stuff is easy. Not even close. And NVIDIA started this, remember this. That's why I tell people that this is not something that you think is going to get fixed real quick. He wants help from all developers. He wants help from AMD, and they're constantly doing that, and they're working together because he realizes if I try to do this by myself and try to think that I'm just this almighty genius like these people are saying I know it's not going to work out the way I wanted to. And it never did work out that way. He was always getting help. He said AMD has stuff way over here. The way he said that, like, man, these guys, they're blowing me away. Now I really see how this stuff works, even just in this world. Because they were always in the console business. The machine learning stuff and all that was on PC for a while, but it was developed through the cards and technologies that they were using. Sony doesn't create GPUs or CPUs, none of that, right? These guys are helping do that from the sources that they're getting it from, AMD. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. There's people in this world that are much more advanced than Mark Cerny in those worlds. He's admitting it right now. It's just the humble people that are stuck in the console world saying dumb stuff that don't know what they're talking about. There's even some people on PC that have a PlayStation that probably think like that as well too. And it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. And they're on Microsoft too, because Microsoft had machine learning back in 2020 for the Series X. So that means they were developing the Series X years before that. They've been had it. They just don't come on the scenes or say anything. But it's been there.
And it's just marvelous to have a partner who also has resources and expertise that can be going into very much the same targets. And what are those targets? It is super resolution. It is, I guarantee it's possible to do better than PSSR. And that's just scratching the surface of where we can head. I mean, I mentioned frame generation and the like, but there are uses I know are out there that we haven't even started talking about yet. So it's to develop those together. Now, to clarify, we're talking about developing components, not developing libraries. Because our customers are different, and when it comes down to it, the hardware is a little bit different. I hope it rung true when I was saying PCs and super resolution's a little bit different from consoles and super resolution, because we tend to be variable upscaling ratio, and PCs tend to be, it's changing, but tend to be fixed upscaling ratios. So having this ability to grab those algorithms and then integrate those co-developed algorithms and integrate separately is really going to be a boost, I think, across the board.
Yeah, it does seem like a very compelling technology partnership, especially considering that, like, on PS5 Pro, you're developing some custom hardware that looks very interesting, and possibly, a lot of those stuff that you're working on has applications to AMD and vice versa there. So I think that's a very interesting partnership. I guess one question that we do have and that we are curious about is how the hardware handles backwards compatibility. If you could answer that at all, because we know that with the PS5 Pro, it doesn't have a perfectly butterflied GPU configuration, whereas on PS4 Pro, it was a butterflied GPU configuration.
It's a great question. So we learned a lot from PS4 Pro. So going into PS4 Pro, I thought we had to replicate pretty much the exact timing that the game was running under. And it turns out you don't need to. It turns out that if the timing can drift a bit and the game will still work. I mean, there's a limit to how far that can go, and we did see a few titles, like 11, I think, that wouldn't respond well when we did PS4 Pro to the radically different timing, but in general, that's out of thousands. But in general, the games are pretty robust when it comes to the timing. So shorter answer is PS5 Pro, we just didn't worry about it, and the games are working.
Okay.
So what he's saying is that they're not going to waste their time going through thousands of test models again. And they felt like they got it down with the PS4 system. And if problems pop up, he thinks it's going to be very minor, and it's something that it's not going to be that big of a deal. So Sony did not test backwards compatibility for PS5 Pro. They felt like with the PS4 Pro, they had it down and they wanted to let it run itself. And if there was the problem, the developer would fix it. That's basically what he's saying. He thinks for the most part, it's going to be fine. So I don't know what I think about that, but I can understand what he's saying, because they probably don't want to do as many tests like that again. And they felt like the cycle would be less this time.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because, that PS4 Pro approach definitely did guarantee that level of compatibility that you're looking for, but now it doesn't seem like it's that big of an issue.
So we need binary compatibility. So we need all of the registers that the game was hitting to be there. But we don't need whatever was taking 1,000 cycles before to still take 1,000 cycles. It's okay if it takes 600 or 900 or even occasionally 1,100.
I kind of had one other question about the hardware here. Given that the PS5 Pro seems to handle areas where RT is quite divergent a lot better than PS5, I know this generation so far we've not really seen games that use path tracing, possibly because of these.
So what I'm going to say is Microsoft system's better than, because it 100% guarantees that. And they've designed it for a while, but they spent a lot of time with it. It seems like Mark Cerny is trying to balance his time. It's not that the PlayStation 5 backwards compatibility isn't good. No, still think it's good. It's just that Sony's not going to make sure it's perfect. You could see that. They've always been kind of lazy about that, and they've always dodged things. Like, you don't have fully integration for PS3 games still. You know what I mean? You don't have fully integration for other games as well, too, that go farther back. And I think a lot of people on PlayStation are a little bit annoyed with that because they feel like they would have liked to have fully integrated backwards compatibility. But at least they've taken steps to get to where they are now with it. I think another thing that's disappointing is that they didn't put that on PS5. Why doesn't PS5 have that, right? You know what I mean? It's like, it should have it. Like, even the Xbox One had it. And every console they have has it integrated in it. Sony's only trying to target it for the Pro, where it's like, no, the PlayStation 5 should have this too. I think a lot of people agree with me on that. It should. Why not release a firmware and do that? And you sell more consoles than Microsoft. You should be taking care of your base better. But they're not doing that. And I respect them for being honest about the way they went about it too. So now we have more answers about the way that system works. It's still good, but we saw it's not a 45% increase. It's probably around an average of 30 to 35% performance. And that's mostly what they were talking about, not pro patches. You had a lot of people thinking, and I was like, no, that's mostly for that system, backwards compatibility. And it is, for the most part.
Of these fundamental issues here, do you think that could be something that feeds into games that are using more advanced ray tracing techniques or even trying to ray trace all their lighting?
Well, I think we've already seen it. We've already seen that consistency of ray tracing performance pay off even in the Spider-Man 2 patch we've done. So we're able to put in ray traced AO. We have some ray traced shadows in there, and places where we were bumping up against those divergence limits. In fact, the water reflections in Spider-Man 2, we cheated them all so that they were less divergent than would be physically accurate in the water to sort of scrape that performance back. And so we're already seeing opportunities where it's paying off for us.
I think path tracing on PS5 Pro would be a little tricky to do, but you know, I wouldn't put it past the developers. There are some amazing engineers out there.
It sounds like a challenge.
Okay.
Yeah, path tracing, full path ray tracing, that's very demanding. I was trying to explain that to people the other day when they talk about, oh, it does RDNA 3 or RDNA 4. Ray tracing is like, dude, it's limited console tricky ray tracing. It's not the full ray tracing that PC gets. Even on low, PC getting path ray tracing is going to look much better than that. And it's not that what they're getting is not bad. It's still good, but it's more like people need to understand what they're saying when they really use those numbers. It's like, it's not what you think. It's always like this kind of like shortcut, tricky, artificial aspect, but it's not as good as you think it could be. But when they're only seeing that, they think that's the best thing in the world. It's like, no. But it's not bad that they're getting there because they can keep on improving on it. I'm pretty sure PlayStation 6 is going to be able to do that. But, you know.
Great. And one final question here. What is your kind of vision for what developers will be achieving on PS5 Pro ultimately in the future? Like, what would you say in a couple years, you're looking at PS5 Pro software, what would you be happy with ultimately?
Yeah, I'm happy with the launch lineup, to be honest. We view it very simply is we're just making tools for the developers, and how the developers use those tools, that's up to them. And so, you know, we've seen a couple different ways of doing it, I think, right now. Part of the fun will be, you know, go out 3 or 5 years, there will be a lot more different ways to use them that we hadn't had anticipated. Just look forward to it.
Okay, great. Well, I think that was a really interesting conversation with Mark and Mike here. And thank you guys for joining me here. But
So there you have it. You get the idea of what he says about the tools like PSSR and all that. They want the developers to use it for the best that they can. They're not looking to spend too much time on finding out all that stuff themselves. That's why developers are making the decisions they did when the PSSR was having issues. Sony would have to do something about that, but are they going to? Because as far as what he's saying, it's kind of just going to be like that. And maybe they may make some tweaks in the future. We'll find out. But like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what y'all think. Once again, as we see, as I told people before, it's what Sony gave them. So this is not a developer issue. And it's not like PSSR is bad, but it's more like there's a, if y'all don't know, there's an issue with the AA, anti-aliasing aspect, to where if it tries to combine with certain other games and engines, it'll create like this blurring effect, because their AA technique, and they have TAA too, it's not noise cancellation. It's not the shimmer cancellation. So a developer would have to go in there and find a way to deal with that. And if it gets on their nerves, they're just going to tell you, give you the option to turn it off and give you that good patch, or replace it with TSR or whatever other upscaling system that's fully integrated. So that's what's going to be happening on that, just to let y'all know. So now we know that's not a developer issue. And we've been doing that. I mean, it's just when they come out and say things, it gives you the idea of just finalizing and putting a nail in the coffin. All right, y'all. Peace out.